So I've been playing with this game a ton, and I've also grouped with a lot of random players, as well as people with my own clan who have questions, as well as just some things that I've noticed that you may want to pay attention to if it's in your own gameplay, or things that you may not have noticed. So we're going to go over the top 10 mistakes that I see beginner players make when playing Diablo Immortal. Let's jump into it. So coming in at number 10 is going to be not upgrading gear. So in this game, every single thing that I know of is transferable, meaning if you get a legendary, you extract the essence, you could swap it over to a new legendary. If you get an upgrade on the slot, you can see here, if we upgrade this and we want to get a new piece of gear, we can easily just transfer it over. If we upgrade our secondary items, we can transfer that over. If we awaken a piece of gear after getting a rank 10 gem, we can swap that over.
Goodbye.
If we get a legendary gem and have that, we can unsocket it or pop it over when we have another piece of gear. Literally everything that's actually upgradable is transferable. So there's never a situation when you're beginning out the game when you shouldn't actually upgrade your pieces of gear. Now, if you're like me and you want a lot of dopamine, you don't have any purpose to upgrade gear right now because you're so far ahead of the curve, you just sit on your resources and upgrade them all at one time, which is what I'm waiting for. So do what I say, not what I do. But I am sitting here and should be upgrading all of these pieces myself in order for me to get a little bit extra combat rating and speed up the dungeons, maybe 1 to 2%. So upgrade everything, it's transferable, and you'll definitely thank me when you're progressing through the early game. Grouping up. Now, this may not seem like a mistake necessarily, because you may not have a bunch of friends or anything to run around with, but if you have anyone in your clan, or even anyone out in the world, invite them to a party, just hang out with them in a party, because you do not need to be in a party doing the same content. You just need to be in a party because it unlocks additional loot and things that you could get while not in a party. One of the biggest things is actually going to be normal gems. They're going to drop at a rare drop rate, especially after you get your first initial 6 of the day. But you'll still have a chance of getting those when you're clearing through content just out and about in the game. So you're always going to want to end up in a party, whether you're farming dungeons, whether you're farming Elder Rifts, whether you're farming open world. It doesn't matter. Just jump into a party and sit around with them because you'll share XP if you are in the area, and if not, you'll still get extra loot. Next one, I've already made basically 2 dedicated videos to this, but I figured I'd drop it in the top 10 mistakes here because this is a crucial one for anyone who's not only beginning or middle of the game, it's actually super impactful end of the game as well. You're going to want to time your battle pass rewards and these rank up points at the correct timing. When you're early game, you're going to want to do it in those intermediate points when you have no storyline quests to complete, but you need to reach the next level. If you are in the Paragon stages, you're going to want to stack up all of your XP on one area, as you can see here from Temple of Namari for me, and you're going to want to claim it when you get to the end of your experience bar. That way you don't get reduced Paragon experience by slowly leveling up the battle pass. And if you want to check out a whole video on that, I have a whole video explaining the whole thing. So that is going to be the tip number 7. Next one up is I think a method that a lot of people take for granted, and that is going to be filling out your legacy of the Horadrim. This is not something to be slacking on. Every single time you actually get these gems, we're going to give you basically free stats. In this case, I have all of them finished except for the RNG one, and you're going to be able to finish these off just by doing open world events. This is something you should probably prioritize once you reach level 60. Honestly, it's the first thing that I would do. Go ahead and time yourself so you can actually get the bosses killed. Now, a few of these drop from the library. One of them drops from Lord Martanos, another boss. Another one drops from just doing the Blood Rose in the Darkwoods. There's a ton of different areas of the game. If you do not have it, you'll actually see where you can get it. At the bottom right hand corner, you can see there, little red place. That is where you're going to actually get the gem. And I'll probably have a dedicated video out on this soon, but I just wanted to let you know to keep an eye on it. And honestly, most of it is relatively self-explanatory as long as you know what this is. Now, it is sometimes a little difficult to understand where and when this is, so hopefully I'll get you all that information soon. But be sure to be paying attention to all this stuff and getting your free stats. Now, there's 3 in here that I would prioritize upgrading, and that is going to be the damage one, the life one. I believe it's, let's see, there you go, the life one. And then after that, it can be the armor penetration one or anything else. But really you want to pick 2 that, or 3 rather, that are going to be separate of these gems up here. So right here, the armor penetration one and the armor. This one also is a really solid one to upgrade as well, but I do not have it yet. But make sure you're focusing on this because it's not something to dismiss, especially when you're getting considering all these extra stats I'm getting for completely free. Next one up is actually going to be finishing your Lassal Raid event. Now, a lot of people get this quest early on. It's going to be a green quest over here. It's going to have you defeat a boss in the challenge rift. That's all good. By the time you finish all that, you're probably going to be way ahead of the curve in terms of what combat rating you actually need to complete this. But for some reason, a lot of people see this quest, they know they can't complete it at the time, and then they completely forget about it until, you know, they're Paragon 20 and I'm asking them, hey, have you finished Lassal? And they're like, oh no, I haven't done that. It is insanely important to do it as early as you possibly can. Now, why is that? Well, for one, you're going to get Scoria. Scoria is limited certain reset times, and so it's gated by time. So it's super important to get a head start on that if you can. You can see here when you level up the Helicore, you'll get combat rating, which is the most important stat for PvE. And on top of that, when you beat Lassal himself, you'll get a trophy here that gives you 30 combat rating. If you do not beat Lassal, you'll probably be missing out about 50 combat rating in total. And obviously, the longer you wait, the more Scoria, which means the more combat rating you'll be missing out on. So be sure to come back and do this whenever you get a chance. Make sure it's on the list of things to do because you do not want to forget about all this combat rating you're missing out. To apply to free-to-play / low spenders, but you could actually craft all of your 1 and 2 star legendary gems as long as you're running those rare crests, and you should get enough to definitely craft some 1-star legendary gems early on. Now, the ones I'd prioritize are going to be Berserker's Eye, Everlasting Torment, and Salid's Weakening. Those are going to be the 3 top ones. If you do happen to have a Demon Hunter or someone who uses a lot of primary attacks, Carson's Invigoration could definitely be one of those that is really, really solid. So you're definitely going to want to go ahead and pick out the ones that are sort of good for your class. Freedom of Devotion is also particularly good for the Necromancer, but you want to use these as soon as possible because you want to fill out those slots with those legendary gems. It doesn't really matter even if they're rank 1. 8 combat rating matters a ton. And if you do happen to get enough materials, picking up a Lightning Cord here or a Bloody Reach, or even a Follower's Burden if you happen to have a Necromancer, all of those legendary gems are going to be huge for upgrading your character. And you should definitely not sleep on this because I know a lot of people out there, if you're not paying money in the game, you just assume that you can't get legendary gems at all, but you can actually get 1-star legendary gems early on as long as you're crafting them. But that being said, it isn't an insane amount, and it's definitely something that is kind of every few days. You may even get one, or every week or so you might craft one 1-star legendary gem. So it's not super common, but you definitely want to pay attention to see if you can craft one every once in a while. This next one is going to be kind of a funny one because I know that a few people kind of missed out on this, and that is once you reach a fresh Paragon, you're basically going to have to access one of these trees. You're going to pick up the tree and you're going to put in points here. Now, for the trees that are available to you, which is the Survivor and the Vanquisher, the first stats are going to be base stats. So life or damage here with the Vanquisher or the Survivor tree. Oh, I guess potency as well. And you're going to want to pick your stats, put them in there, and then eventually you're going to unlock one of these skills. Now, for those of you that don't know, there's going to be many Paragon trees. As you can see here, there's 6 Paragon trees. And so you actually don't necessarily want to forget to pick the tree that you're using and make sure you activate it. So there's a little activate button in the top right corner, and if you do not activate it, these skills here are just not going to exist on your character. The attributes are permanently there, but the skills that you have, for example, this one right here, which is the only skill I technically have, for each monster I defeat, your attack speed increases by 0.5 for 6 seconds. So missing out on 3% attack speed, or 5% attack speed here, which is not a ton, but granted, when we get later on, you're going to start getting a ton of these bonuses, and it's going to start to matter quite a bit. So make sure you activate the Paragon tree that you actually want active. So next one isn't crazy important, but it's definitely important to do if you just want some extra passive bonuses. So we're here in the Warband, and I definitely recommend that you all pull together a Warband. It does not matter if you're playing together. I think that's the misconception that a lot of people have, is that you have to play together. Now, there is one situation where it is nice to play together, and that is going to get your first time clear rewards for your raids here. It's a one-time bonus that you can actually pick up the Scoria here, and you definitely should do that. But the other bonus, and the one that I think is way more important, is the Warband chests. So if we go ahead and just talk to the steward here, we can actually see we can deposit our warband chest, and you'll get these randomly through grinding out in the world. You do not have to be in your warband to get these, and you'll have this, well, basically gigantic gear stash that you'll have access to, where people are dropping in gear and they could be upgrades for you. Just look at this glove I'm using actually right now. It is a set item piece for the glove, which I do not have, or the capability of actually getting in the current game right now outside of warband chests, and it is currently the best in slot glove I have, and that's only because someone actually was able to get it for me, another looted warband chest. Now I have a ton of upgrades in here for a lot of other people, and a lot of people are actually borrowing my stuff. You can see here, someone, Edzilla, is borrowing the Gathering. We have Chosen borrowing the Hunger. We have a bunch of people just borrowing random gear pieces, and that's only due to the warband that we're actually in and the warband chest that we're collecting. So these last two are going to be insanely important and also drive me nuts when I don't see it. And if you're watching this video, you know who you are, who I keep talking in Discord with. But you should be changing your skills and legendary items all the time. Now, with skills, you can literally change in the middle of combat. I oftentimes forget to change my skills until I realize that I want to use that skill in the middle of combat. So I'll step aside during a boss fight, change my banner back on my bar, or change my Conjuration of Light back on the bar, and then swap it off when I go back to solo farming. Now, you should have a solo farming build, a group farming build, and then a PvP build. Oftentimes, when you're playing solo versus group, not every class, but most classes are going to have different skills that you'd like to run, as well as just having different skills in different content. For example, if you're trying to run challenge rift solo versus open world content solo, you may need some more survivability in order to survive that challenge rift. On top of that, when you actually have your builds, you're going to want to change your legendary items. For example, we have Conjuration of Light here. This normally just gives you damage immunity, but I've changed it to where it does a holy shield, where it basically puts a damaging area of effect around all my allies and then does a ton of damage. Now, this only is really solid when you're actually in a group. And so this is basically an exclusively group legendary slash group ability here. Now, I change my legendary items every single time I start running dungeons, when I start going to solo farm, and when I go into PvP, because you're going to get so much more value out of it than if you were to just remain in the same build all the time. And this last one may have some personal bias here, but I cannot tell you how many dang times I've told people to stand in my banner. For those of you that don't know, this is what the banner radius looks like. Now, some people have the legendary item where you can put it on your back as a crusader, and some people just have it out in the open. But whether or not it's on your back or if it's out in the open, if you see that yellow radius, you have to be standing in it. Now, for those of you that are casual players, I guess this doesn't matter too much for you because you'll kill the boss most likely anyways. For those of you that are actually interested in kind of speeding through some content, getting some extra rewards a little bit faster, standing in this banner, this is the most broken PvE skill in my opinion. It massively changes the time in which you're able to complete any PvE content when this banner is active or not. Why is that? Well, guess what? The banner is going to give you guaranteed 100% crit chance. It's going to lower your crit damage a little bit, but if the allies have a decent crit chance, they're going to add that crit chance over to crit damage. On top of that, your crit damage is modified by your armor pen, which is modified by the legacy of the Horadrim, as well as some other things, which I told you to max out already if you can. So all of this starts to add up and you do some massive damage. The damage differential is about twofold in terms of clearing content. It's about twice as fast when you're standing in the banner and you're not. So if you see a banner, please stand in it, because us crusaders hurt a little bit when we're running banner and we don't stand in our banner. That being said, hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you for the next one.